All right, what's up, guys? It's Ian here, and today it's another episode of The Raw Truth. So we got some of your questions, a little Q&A here, so we're gonna get right into it. First question, do you use a logbook or track your weights at the gym in any way? I don't write things down in a logbook per se, but I got a pretty good memory, so I try and remember as best I can what the weights I used previous week, but I really go by feel. I use try and progress in my exercises as much as I can, and remember from the previous week where we were and try and build on there. Whether it's getting an extra rep or two, or a little more weight, or throwing an intensifier and getting a couple extra reps in the intensifier sets. But I'm always trying to progress within those exercises. I do suggest using a logbook if you are a beginner getting into training. I think it's a very valuable tool. But I've been training for 15, 18 years now, so I have a pretty good rhythm and remember the exercises and stick with the same exercises pretty consistently until I find they're not beneficial in my programming, and then I might swap them out. But until then, I keep them in and try and use the principles of progressive overload in my training. Absolutely, yes. Do you use cereals, bagels, breads, as well as oats, rice, pasta in your growing phases? Yeah, I don't really eat cereal much. But if you're in an off season, it's an option for some easy carbohydrates you could use around training or something. Breads I do use, I'll use some kind of whole wheat toast or whole grain toast or Ezekiel bread or something like that relatively often in my diet. Same with bagels, that kind of stuff. Only in the off season, really. Oats, rice I use all year, all the time. Pasta, I don't use pasta a ton. I did it for a little bit in the off season, but I found it wasn't super great on my digestion. But if you digest it well, there's absolutely no issue with it for there. So yeah, go out and go crazy. Go-to off-season cheat meal. I'm not a big cheat meal guy, but if I'm getting something, we're going McDonald's. Probably Big Dick's, maybe some sushi. Or me and my wife Melissa, we might go out for like a nice dinner, like a nicer restaurant. Go to like a nice steakhouse or something like that. But generally, if I'm going alone, I'm sneaking in something dirty. It's going to be McDonald's. Get a couple double cheeseburgers, maybe a Big Mac, fries, or we're going to sushi and we're just going balls to the walls on the sushi, rolls after rolls. Pick one. Know when you will die or how you will die. I probably would rather know how I would die, because let's say you're dying of, I don't know, some age-related ailment. It doesn't necessarily still tell me when it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen. That's something that's going to control your life, and I really would rather fucking not know that. So I'll take the how, not know when. Having a hard time getting a good connection with my biceps. Suggest any tips, please. So first off, I would probably stay away from the dumbbell barbell movements for the time being. Stick to more cable movements and machine movements that have a really good consistent tension curve. And just really slow your reps down. For anything like that, really slow down the eccentric and really just at the top of movement, really try and rotate that wrist in and really just get as much of a squeeze at the peak contraction of the biceps as you can. But yeah, I think cable is probably going to be your best bet. A lot of cable movements, they got a really good tension. So that's probably what I would do, and just, yeah, like I said, slow things down. Can I answer this one? Ask me when I lost my virginity. Sure. When did you lose your V card and you are number one? Well, thank you. I appreciate you calling me number one. A funny story to that. I actually lost my V card, when I was, I guess I would have been 14, and I was on a track meet road trip in Timmins, Ontario, buttfuck nowhere, Ontario, on a track meet in a motel. So that's as grimy as it gets right there. But yeah, it was during the summer. We traveled for a track meet for Legion Nationals, and yeah, we were all staying in a motel, and that's how she goes. Most beneficial Revive supplement for overall health. Thanks for being a role model. Well, thank you, and thank you for your question. It's very hard to narrow down one, but if I had to pick one supplement that I think everyone should take, and that's going to have the most overall benefit for your health, I'm probably going to say the omega-3. I think for overall health benefits, it's one of the best supplements that exists, for inflammation, for cognitive health, heart health, and I like to take in even higher doses, and it does have a lot of good correlation with helping with anxiety and depression as well. So I think that's a great supplement that everyone can take, whether you're training, not training, top-end bodybuilder, just starting off, whatever your goals are in life, or in fitness or anything. A good omega-3 supplement is absolutely a great addition to your supplement stack. Tips for gaining weight and mass in college. Well, I don't think the rules are any different if you're in college versus high school versus not in any of them. The tips are the same. The tips are be in a caloric surplus and train hard, and get adequate rest and adequate sleep. So one, I see this especially with a lot of young guys. They'll be training 6 or 7 days a week, and then they'll be like, why can't I grow? Well, I mean, think of the amount of output in calories you're doing in the total week, and it's now increased. You're probably moving around more, busy, so you're burning more calories there. So I would add more rest days. Don't train over 5 days in a week, and I think never train more than 3 days in a row. That's kind of my rule of thumb. And eat as much as you possibly can of good quality food. I'm not into like the dirty bulks or anything like that. I don't think that's overly productive. And if you're in college and your budget's tight, then just go find foods that are cheap. You can go buy a 20 kilogram bag of rice, jasmine or basmati rice or something like that. It's pretty affordable, pretty cheap, and that'll last you a long time. You can get ground meats, even like 85-15 ground beef. It's pretty cheap. You're getting a little extra fats in there. It's going to help you grow well. Whole eggs are cheap. You can throw some of those in as well, or even like for breakfast, just pound those. Oats are cheap, so there's a lot of good things there that are good carb and protein sources that you can absolutely incorporate in there for a reasonable price for your budget. At what point in your career did Instagram become much more important? It's actually a great question. Obviously, I've kind of been through all the phases of bodybuilding with this. When I started bodybuilding in 2010, Instagram didn't even exist. Back then, that was really people's, your prowess as a bodybuilder and your ability to sell and through magazines and, doing those kind of endorsements was really what was the predominant factor there. But obviously now your, influence on social media is a heavily dictating factor on the contracts you can get and your ability to make money in this industry now as a bodybuilder. So, I think probably, most of my pro career, it's become, but as Instagram has gotten more kind of intertwined with the fitness industry, it's become more and more prevalent. So, and obviously if you want to make more money, you need to be more active on social media, YouTube, these kind of things, as well as being a good bodybuilder. So I think you need to realize there's a lot of guys out there that are doing these things. So you need to be engaging, you need to show your personality a bit, but you also have to be a good competitor as well. So I think all these things matter. But I still don't think I really answered the question. So at what point, I'm going to give you a specific time, let's say I don't know, when did I start maybe my first Olympia, 2018, but it's really a hard answer to question answer, sorry. So it's been a majority of my bodybuilding career. Instagram has been relatively important. So, if you plan on making a career in the fitness industry, make sure you're getting out there, showing people your personality, showing people your life, showing them your training, more the better, in my opinion. Did you have any stage fear when you started bodybuilding? Not really. I think the best advice I can give you to eliminate stage fear is just be prepared. And I don't mean be prepared as in knowing what it's going to feel like to be on stage. Be prepared in your physique. If you are ready and you're confident in your physique, it'll eliminate a lot of that stage fright and show jitters and stuff like that. You'll be very excited to show off your physique and be proud of it. And I think if you know that you put your 110% into your prep, you will feel very confident going on stage. Look, I still get nervous a little bit to go on stage. You're walking out there in a fucking bikini, top bottoms, So obviously there's a little bit of, fright with that, especially the first time. But no, I think just be as prepared as you can for your competition, and it'll definitely eliminate a lot of that. Have you ever had any problems or times where you disagreed on how your coach is training you? Not really. I think this is something that you might have a disagreement or a difference in opinions, but this is always something. I think communication is key here, and I think if you have something you're not agreeing with, have the discussion about it. Say to your coach, but why are you doing this? What's the reasoning for this? If they can't give you a good answer, well, maybe that coach isn't for you. But I think most good coaches can explain their process, and I think there's also comes down to just saying, trust your coach and trust the process to some extent. A lot of things are maybe just like bro science-y. And maybe your coach has just implemented these things in the past with good success. And I think there's sometimes, even if they don't have the super scientific answer behind them, are still worth trying. But no, I've never really had any significant disagreements with any coaches. I've definitely had questions. They've been answered to, satisfy my ask. And then we just go from there. But communication is key, guys, with coaches, for sure. Who would be hotter, Chris as a girl or Melissa as a guy? Probably Chris as a girl. I feel like Melissa would be kind of a funny looking dude, but Chris could probably be a pretty girl. So I got to go with Chris on that one. Sorry, Melissa. Are barbell squats effective for hypertrophy? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the best legs in history were built predominantly on squats. I mean, you think of a guy like a Tom Platz, super big proponent for squatting. I mean, Ronnie Coleman squatted a lot. But on that note, I don't barbell squat anymore. I haven't in a long time. I know a lot of top guys don't. I don't think, I hate this word and I get a lot in my Q&As. I don't think it's necessary to barbell squat by any means. If you find it's a movement that is good for you and you're getting a good response from it, good stimulus, you can feel it well, and it's not, not taking so much energy demand to stabilize it and taking that tension away from the quads, then I think it's absolutely a good option. But there's also a lot of great other options. I mean, hack squats are good, Smith squats are good. I mean, there's a lot of other comparable exercises that you can work into your training. But no, are they effective for hypertrophy? Yes, plain answer. Is one scoop of the raw EAAs enough? I see most people doing 2. Yeah, I think 1 is enough. I mean, I really just try and aim to get 3 grams of leucine when I'm doing that, and any more than that is hunky-dory. So, I think, I don't know exactly how much you're getting, but I think you're getting around 3 grams of leucine in 1 scoop of the raw EAAs, or around there. Does anyone have the numbers on that? I don't have confirmation, but it's probably pretty damn close. You got one over there? Can you check the EAAs? We're gonna get you an answer to that. Hold on 1 second. This is when you play like the elevator music, like doo, 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 doo. There we go. We got one right here, lemon lime. 3 grams on the dot. Look at that. So yes, 1 scoop is more than sufficient. That's all you need. Question answered. The larger you are, the more muscle you have, the more protein demand you're gonna have, more EAAs can be a benefit. But I think for most people, even myself, I think doing 1 scoop would probably be sufficient, but I like to overkill things, so 2 every time. Have you ever doubted the fact that you could be the time of what? Have you ever doubted the fact you could be the time of BB bodybuilder now? If so, what? Okay, let's scratch that. That makes no sense. I apologize if that was your question. I didn't understand it. Do you find it hard to coach people while you are in prep, especially for the O? Simple answer is yes, and that's why I have semi-retired, 3/4, 95% retired from coaching. I have a couple of clients that I've kept that are just long-term guys that I just can't get rid of. No, but guys that are easy to work with, and that understand that my career is my priority at this point. Obviously I try and do the best I can for them, and I still have some great clients. But no, it does become very difficult. Especially you get a lot of guys, a lot of amateur shows are now combined with pro shows. And when you're trying to compete at the same time as having a client compete, or an amateur client compete, or even a pro client in the same show, it can be very, very difficult. And from both ends, I mean, clients, especially that last couple days, last week, need a lot of attention. They need to be seen. There's a lot of manipulations that need to be made. And to some point it's nice, it's a little bit of a distraction, but it can also be very, very difficult to, manage, your time and energy with looking after them, with also not detracting from your own prep and your own peak. So yes, it is hard. And I've definitely had some shows, I had 1 year, I think in 2016, that I did the Toronto Pro, and I had like 14 clients in the amateur show. And after that, I was like, I'm never doing this again. And I made kind of a hard and fast rule that I was not taking very many people on after that, and that I was limiting clients based off what shows they were doing. If they were doing a show that I knew I was going to do, like let's say the Toronto Pro, I tried to not take on any clients, or like 1 or 2 that were doing that show, just not 14. What was your OG inspiration to start getting big? Maurice Pujanowski, if anyone knows who he is. He was World's Strongest Man, multiple-time World's Strongest Man back in the early 2000s. And I don't remember if you have cable or satellite TV, the World's Strongest Man used to play like daytime TV all the time. And I would see this guy, and he looked completely different than everyone else doing the World's Strongest Man. These guys were all 6'5" and taller, big, fat, heavy guys. And look, weight moves weight, so that was absolutely makes sense for strongman and powerlifting. But Maurice looked kind of like a hybrid between a bodybuilder and a strongman or powerlifter. You know, he had like lean, tight abs, very muscular, and he just dominated during that era of when speed and athleticism was kind of a lot more of a helping attribute in strongman. And I saw him and I was like, this is what I want to look like. I want to be strong and fast and look crazy like this. And I remember Googling and like Maurice Pudzianowski diet, Maurice Pudzianowski training, and I just followed everything. And some of the shit he was doing was like blending Snickers bars and blenders and crazy stuff like that. And I was like, all right, this is what we got to do to get big. So Maurice Pudzianowski was the first guy, and I knew nothing about bodybuilding at this time. I just knew I wanted to be big and strong. And once that led into that, then, you know, over time I started to obviously discover guys more like Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, and these become some of my original, you know, bodybuilding influences. I mean, everyone starting in bodybuilding knows like the Yeah Buddy and Nothing But a Peanut and, you know, all the Ronnie Coleman sayings and that kind of shit. So, but yeah, Maurice was definitely the first guy. If you go on YouTube and type in Maurice Pudzianowski and watch some of his World's Strongest Mans, he was super entertaining, awesome athlete, and I loved watching him compete for sure. All right, guys, so that's a wrap on the Raw Truth episode. Thank you, everyone, for all your questions. If I didn't get to your questions, hopefully I do next time. There's a ton of them, but we can only do so many. But thanks, guys, for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.